Hi and welcome to johnrayner.tv. In this message I want to ask again, but in different ways, do you know your audience, or do you really know your audience? And questions like, what motivators do they respond to? Why are they likely to accept your idea or your proposal? What really interests them in your theme, in your concept, in your product, your service, your solution? And again, this might seem vanilla or basic, but it fascinates me. I remember one time whilst based in Sydney, Australia, and it was an international company that actually called me in. I'd done work with them before, public speaking and training, but this turned into a consulting scenario because my client, who was based in Melbourne, Australia, they were needing to present to one of the big four banks the following week. We had 1 week until the actual event. I said to the CEO of Asia Pacific, the managing director, I said, Joe, I said, why are you contacting me? He said, look, he said, I've got my 9 leaders in a room, plus myself, 10 leaders. He said, we're only 1 week away from the event with one of the big four banks. And if successful, then my client as a provider to the bank would have gained a 3-year service level agreement, which would have made up about 18 or 19% of their revenue for the next 3 years. So it was a reasonable, in fact, a large size account, a good size account, should they be successful. But what fascinates me is I flew down from Sydney to Melbourne, Australia, walked into a room, their boardroom. There were 10 of the leaders in the room, plus myself, 11. And I asked this question. I said, I won't say the name of the bank now, but I asked the question, including the name of the bank. I said, what is it that you want to present or communicate, or what message do you want to distribute to XYZ Bank the following week? And what fascinated me was I took some A4 lined paper and I listened for 1 hour and 20 minutes whilst 10 leaders spoke at me and told me what they wanted to communicate. And then at the end of that, I said, listen, I really appreciate your information and your insights. I said, but where did you get this? What's the source of this? And of course they said, well, we've known the bank for some time. We know what they need. I said, have you asked? They said, well, we understand the industry. We understand this type of product and service. The bottom line is, tore up the pieces of paper just to get my message across and emphasize the fact that everything that we think and feel is sometimes irrelevant or sometimes useless if we don't understand our audience. And so to keep the story short, we agreed not on what we're going to say, but we actually started to ask, what are we going to question the audience? Within an hour, we constructed 5 questions that we all agreed upon, which were relevant to the actual bank, relevant to the product and the service for the next 3-year potential contract. Started to send emails to 4 of the decision makers who were visiting my client the following week. Started to send emails with questions, not presenting anything, not communicating anything other than asking questions to know the audience. What was fascinating, within 2 hours, a couple of the contacts of the bank, they responded directly, and another one responded via the personal assistant, and then one we were waiting to hear from. But it was interesting. The 3 responses that we gained answered the 5 questions very, very clearly, basically gave us 3 key points to focus on. And what was interesting is this as a conclusion. What I listened to for 1 hour and 20 minutes regarding what the company, my client in Melbourne, wanted to say to the bank was basically irrelevant. 80 to 90% was irrelevant because the bank wanted to understand 3 things. They wanted to understand payment terms over a 3-year service level agreement. They wanted to understand customer service, the customer service capability of my client, and they wanted to understand inventory in terms of warehousing and what products are kept in supply, etc. So the entire presentation that we put together was based on inventory, customer service, and payment terms. And ultimately, that particular client in Melbourne won the service level agreement for 3 years, which made up almost 20% of their revenue for the next 3 years. Again, my question is, do you really, really know your audience? See you next time on johnrayner.tv.